Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening and welcome. Silly reference there, but I thought I'd do something different this evening. I've got figures on the go. I've got some goblins from the Goblin Town set that I've discovered that I hadn't actually done, so I'm doing those at the moment. But I thought I'd just talk about, or possibly even start, one of the memes that we often do in the community. You know, we did the Becker's commands and we did the paint for Waterloo and we do various things from time to time. So I was going to ask people to respond with what sort of got them into figure painting, wargaming, the hobby. With me, I think I can trace it right back to when I was a kid and started getting Airfix soldiers. My dad would buy me stuff from Woolworths and I got every Airfix 172 scale set there was available. I mean, all of them, even the Italians. And every time a new set would come out, my dad would buy me the latest set, probably when they were reduced, knowing him. Yeah, but yeah, I had the Tarzan set. I had the High Chaparral, you name it. You can look on the Plastic Soldier review. Every set I had. You know, the marching band, the lot. I mean, it helps when you're born in '63. Bit of a giveaway there. But yeah, so yeah, that was the first sort of brush I had with it. And of course, me and my dad used to do the FX play-ins, and he more or less finished the Bismarck on his own, and he still does model kits to this day. But I think the next thing was when I was about 13, 14, and one of the things that we did at school in those days was we had to do an analysis of the Sutton Hoo burial. Who was it? What was the evidence? It was a sort of evidence-based detective story, and that really got me interested in the Anglo-Saxon era, really, and the sort of analysis of history, the not the objectivity, but gathering the evidence together to come up with conclusions and opinions. So I really enjoyed that particular module, I suppose you'd call it now, of the history curriculum at the time. And of course I grew up very close to Hadrian's Wall. I was born within Hockling, I'll call it Hockling distance. Any of you from the northeast will know what Hockling means. So Hockling distance, of course, Stoppenham Roman Fort, which also I discovered many years later that my great-granddad was one of the original labourers on that site. He was a Corbridge-born bloke, and I've got a couple of photographs of him actually working on the site, which is very nice. Very rare to have photographs from a family like mine from that era, but the reason why we got them is, or we have them, is because of course when they ran out of funds, the guy who was doing it, Mr. Robson I think he was called, he was a photographer type bloke from Hexham, and he used to take photographs of the labourers to pay them with photographs instead. And of course he used to sell photographs of the site to people visiting it as well, just to get extra money to pay people and keep the works going. And I think the works there started in about 1906 or something like that. I'll look it up on my family history website, but I think it was about 1906. And of course with the advent of World War I, the whole thing ground to a halt because everybody went off to fight. So yeah, growing up surrounded by Roman stuff, and there's an awful lot of Saxon churches around there built by St Wilfrid, who was a big noise in the Anglo-Saxon era. I think he built 7 churches along the Tyne Valley, including Hexham Abbey. There may have been a church there before, but basically he claims the foundation of it. And of course Hexham Abbey's got a fantastic crypt, which if you go down there, if we ever get out of our homes, if you ever do visit Hexham, go down into the crypt. The stones were all stolen from the Roman wall, So some of them bear the legionary marks of the 20th Valeria Victrix, and I think the 6th Legion was there, and well, the 9th may have done some work on it as well, before they miraculously disappeared. Only Doctor Who could solve that problem, couldn't he, really? Or Jamie Bell. Or Rosemary Sutcliffe, for that matter. That was another thing that influenced me as well, reading that. I think we had to read that when we were at school. So, for my, what we call O-levels over here, if you're watching this elsewhere, that isn't in the UK, or Scotland, then it depends when you're watching this, actually, doesn't it? That'll date it. Yeah, you do what you call ordinary levels at they're called GCSEs now. So you do those when you're 15, and I did history, which was the Tudors, I believe, and then I did A-level history, which was the Tudors and Stuarts, which got me interested in the War of the Three Kingdoms, the English Civil War, whichever term you want to use it. And also when I was 17, I did an extra raw level, which was Roman history, and that was the Republican period of Rome, which was fascinating to me because it was people like the war against Hannibal, the Punic Wars, and the Gracchi, who were great social reformers, Marius's military reforms. Fascinating stuff. I do like the Republican history to this day. Then for, as I say, I did an A-level in Tudors and Stuarts, and also did an A-level in ancient history, which was the Greek ancient world and more of the Roman Republic. So you just went into the Roman Republic in more detail, but you also learnt about Persian Wars for the Greek side and the Peloponnesian War, which went on for about 25 years, I think. A long time anyway. But that was that really interested me. But while I was doing those two, the history and the classical, excuse me, history and the classical stuff, I started getting interested more in the Anglo-Saxon stuff. I picked up Frank Stenton's Oxford English History, which was his volume was about the Anglo-Saxons, and there's a massive detail in there. It was written in 1936, but a lot of it is still valid because you can't improve on it, really. You know, the records don't go away. It's still the same records. The Anglo-Saxons haven't left behind that much in the form of writs and charters, but we very rarely find anything else. So what Stenton wrote about them at the time is still valid. But yeah, I read that from cover to cover, which is when I suddenly realised that I really should get out more, and I still realise that now. So yeah, I'd like to know anyone else who has actually read Frank Stenton's Anglo-Saxon history from cover to cover. I know I have. So as I say, I really should have been getting out more at that time. So doing that, once I'd got my A-levels, I was more fascinated by the Anglo-Saxons, so I discovered that at North London Polytechnic they were doing a degree in history and classical civilization, so that combined my Greek and Roman stuff with the very much a lot of it was Anglo-Saxon stuff and the English Civil War, so I decided to do that. There was a bloke there before me apparently called Jeremy Corbyn, who I think he did his first year and then flunked out. No idea whatever happened to him. I'm sure he's made a great success of something somewhere, but I don't know, time will tell. So yeah, that was 3 years well spent getting drunk in the bar and talking about Wessex and the Viking invasions and everything right up to the conquest. So it was right up my alley. Enjoyed every single minute of it. After that, started working in London and sort of kept up that interest. Behind me I've got a flipping library of books here. All history books from that time, which had this strange idea that, you know, my children actually do a history degree and use these books, but of course kids these days don't know how to read. They just don't read. They don't know what a book is, so they get everything on Wikipedia and sort of move away from there, but usually it just stops at Wikipedia. So that was always my dream, that they'd pick these books up and start reading them, which is why I've got hundreds of them, because what I tend to do is read a fiction book, usually a sci-fi one, and then once I've finished that I'll go back onto a history book. So I've done more damned history since leaving university than I actually did there, which I think once you've got the love of it inside you, you just don't give up. You've always got a desire to keep learning and carry on. So I do know a lot about various periods, so the ancient Greeks, the Romans, the Tudors, the Stuarts. Not so big on the medieval stuff. The Anglo-Saxons definitely, Vikings definitely, Viking Age Europe, so the Carolingians, and before that the Merovingians, which was all, basically we did feudal society, so it was about how feudal society came about and its origins, and castle building, which started in Anjou, obviously by Fulk Noir, no less, Fulk the Black. And that's, once I started work, my girlfriend at the time bought me some Prince August moulds of Napoleonic figures. She bought me the British infantry. Don't think she bought moulds for anything else. I think she just got me a starter set. Actually, no, it was a starter set. It was the starter set with some French infantry, French line infantry and British line infantry. And I bought more metal and started moulding those and painting them, not very well, which is when I got grabbed by some mates of mine at work who had just come across this thing called Dungeons and Dragons. So we started buying figures for that and painting them, and some of the guys who joined the group were absolutely brilliant painters, so I learned a lot of those about, would you believe, washes and dry brushing. Heaven forbid, because that was a completely new concept to me. I think in the sort of Red Dwarfs and Dragon magazines at the time, they just showed painted figures. There wasn't really much going on about how to actually get them painted or techniques and tips, and there certainly wasn't any YouTube stuff about that, which is what I like about YouTube now. You know, people paint stuff, to do the odd figures myself as well, and put a few paint ups on there how I've actually done things. Some of you may have watched them. But yeah, so it was through the D&D route, and then kids came along, and like lots of people, all that went by the wayside. Didn't do anything until my son was about, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. My daughter had come along as well, so he was born in 2000. So yeah, they may have been a bit older than that. And I thought I'd get some figures off eBay, because I started watching Blucher 1815 Red by then, and thought, wow, he was the first one I stumbled across on the YouTube community actually, and thought, wow, this guy does some good stuff. And of course, once you start watching one of his videos, it leads you to someone else and someone else and someone else, and you stumble across various reprobates like Ringo and Fraser von Ketteringham and British Legion, the usual suspects, to name just a few. But those are some of the first few that I watched, so that sort of really inspired me to get in and start painting again, starting with Napoleonics. Also, my father at the time was doing the HMS Victory, one of those Del Prado things that cost you about £10,000 to buy on a weekly subscription, whereas you could have just bought the whole model for about £2,000. But he likes doing it that way. He likes the magazine that comes with it and spending the £10,000 over various years, and he has done a nice job. But he basically didn't want to do the figures himself, and they were 15mm sailors, some of them climbing the rigging and various marines and all that, so he sent them down in a envelope to me and said, "Get on with him, son." So I did. That's how he speaks as well. Just like me. So yeah, he sent them down and said, I don't fancy painting them themselves, but it's a sort of father bonding thing with his eldest son and heir. He let me get on with them, and I took them up to him when I finished with them, and he was very happy with that. So that was another thing that sort of dragged me back in. So yeah, that's basically me for that. Be interested in hear your own little stories about, you know, what bits of the hobby you like the most. Me personally, I like the model making side of it. I like the crafting side of it. I like the painting the figures. I do get a game going every once in a while, but really haven't done any for quite some time. I've had a game behind me set up here for, must be getting on for nearly 3 years now, ready to go. Now should be the time to do it, because I'm running out of storage space to actually put all these flipping figures in. I discovered 3 extra storage boxes the other day, which were filled pretty damn rapidly, because they've just been sitting on the war games table there for a while, waiting for a home. So much clutter up here that needs to be sorted out. I really should be spending the time in this opportunity to do it, but you know what? I need something to motivate me. So hopefully you've enjoyed. It was Star Wars Day yesterday. May the 4th be with you, which is why I'm wearing this. So yeah, I'd love to hear your own little stories, your own little histories about how you came into it and what you enjoyed about it. So if you've lasted this far, I take my hat off. And nice doing a different one for a change. You lot all take care out there, and would love to hear stories as well. And if you've liked my story, then please tell me. Would be love to hear from you. Okay, you take care, and see you soon.